I don't go into, the idea that I tell the whole story as a love story between her and death, but it gives you an idea, how I approach that. I told all that to Hal Prince, and he said, okay, now we have to find a composer. And he went back to the States and he made some proposals. And what I got were demo recordings of Broadway music. And I was not interested in that, Not even Stephen Sondheim would have been the right one for that kind of show, because it is a different world. I mean, you have to feel, Anton Bruckner would have been the ideal, composer for that, but he was dead. Too bad. Anyway, I very soon learned, that there was, it couldn't work that way. It couldn't work. To Americanize that story was, meant to kill it. And I didn't want to have another Sound of Music. And Hal wasn't able, to do it in any other way. So we gave up as friends, and he understood, but I now started to do it on my own. I took time to find the right composer, but then one of my former collaborators, who was in the meantime working as a movie composer in Los Angeles, he finally, was convinced that this is something worth doing. And anyway, the first show became a success. It took years and years to convince a producer to do it, because they didn't believe that someone that was written here could be as successful as a show they bought from the West End or from Broadway. But it turned out to be a success. The critics hated it, and in the end, I found, that it was the right approach to work from the inside out, to write something for the local audience, to write something that really means something to myself, and not just for the market. So that was the seed, what I mentioned in the beginning. And before I explain now how I see the kind of shows I write, which I call drama musicals, I really like to repeat, the resources I had, which is, first of all, being a songwriter, a very experienced songwriter, I may say. I also wrote novels, but that is only important in the sense that also, of course, a novel needs a certain structure. So I was used to structuring. Then the adaptation work I did, I really learned from the masters, from the top masters. That was my best school. Then I listened to all these movie gurus and went to all these story seminars, knowing, what they discuss. And I have to say, the most influential one for me was Robert McKee. He is, because he was thinking about the idea of telling a story, not just specific on page 25. You have to have a turning point, which is a little bit for kids. And of course, the work for TV was also helpful. And finally, the fact, that I knew that I have a strength to elicit emotion. And that is what it's all about. People go to the theater not to see emotions. They want to have emotions. And this is the wonderful thing about the musical stage, that you can go through the fourth wall and really make people part of the experience. Now, after 4-5 more shows I wrote, which all were performed and which I'm happy to say were all international successes. I came up, with a structure that I usually use. It is not like this is how a musical has to be done. But I found, by exploring my own work, that this is what I usually do. And this is, I think, part of the reason why these musicals are successful. Because they all have a structure that helped me overcome moments where I write something that is only important to me and not to the story, and also to not to fall into the trap of becoming too intellectual and becoming starting to teach the audience, which I don't want. So I cannot explain you the full theory of my structure, because I thought the other day you talked about Lehman Engel, and he compares the musical architecture to building a bridge or a skyscraper. So don't expect me to give you the full structure, but I want to give you 10 elements of that kind of musical I write. First of all, my definition for the drama musical is it's a European form of the popular musical theater in which the dramatic narration dominates all other elements. The dramatic narration is king, and everything else is servant. That's why I call it drama musical. And the idea, actually the name drama musical was not my idea. A journalist came up with it. And I kept the name because I think there is drama. Originally, musical, as everybody knows, is musical comedy. It's certainly not a comedy. And musical drama I didn't like to use because musical comes first and drama second. No, drama, musical. That's what it is.